Hey guys, my name is Dr. Alan Heide.
And I'm Don Radon.
I'm the doctor, and he's the guy who's lived it. This is Breaking Free. Don, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing well, brother. How are you?
Doing good. I'm feeling good after we had the family day on Sunday.
It's been a great time. You know, our combining of forces has, made some waves, made some impact on some families, and certainly my wife is over the moon about our combining forces, because it's been an element that we've been missing out on. Although we've tried to help the family, there's only so much we can do when our eyes are focused solely on the addict.
Right.
You know, and so I'm super excited.
Yeah.
About how it went.
It was nice to, you get up there and you share information that, when I think about the information from the family side of things in the way of recovery and support, it's like second nature at this point after years and years. And you forget that teaching someone that you can't control it, you can't cure it, and you didn't cause it is sometimes earth-shattering information for somebody who's sitting in a treatment center for their loved one, listening to this information, maybe for the first, second, or third time. They're like, what? And it was nice just to remember that, of like the same way we would go into the hospital and the addict carries the message to the individual who's in the hospital.
Right.
This was an opportunity for me to carry the message to the family members, which was really nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's the magic handshake for us in recovery, is that 12 step and giving away freely what we have to help other people. And I think it is our primary focus when we first get sober, when we first get clean, or when we first enter into recovery, is to save our own butts, right? Carry that message. But then it comes to a point where it's no longer about selfish motive. So our primary focus is to, stay in our own personal recovery and save our butts. Then that becomes secondary. That selfish motive becomes unselfishness, where I just want to see people free. I want to see people, families return back together and stronger than ever. And it's no longer about me, but it's about them.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we got to witness this weekend, and watch these families kind of light up and key in and see, oh man, there really is. I have been contributing to this illness.
Yeah. Yeah. And, you kind of get the range when you speak to that many families, right? It was a handful of families that were there, and you get the people who have questions about slightly related things about people who aren't in the room. You get the questions, directly about like, well, what should I do next? Which is always nice. But you also get, this was one of my favorites from the weekend, is one of the ladies who was kind of nodding off and falling asleep while I was sharing, and then comes up and has a bunch of stuff to share about Al-Anon after the share is done.
Right.
Which, that's great. She already has a little bit of the recovery experience.
Sure.
But that kind of stuff, always, just the range of responses you get is funny when you're talking about the family disease of addiction. It's an easy one to check out of, because it can be really heavy.
Sure it is. I'm used to the same type of responses with doing a lot of public speaking on addiction. That range of people falling asleep, other people saying, well, we should just put them on an island and burn them all. And it's just interesting to me how perception plays itself out in these environments. Because I've had people come up to me afterwards about my presentation and say, oh, I really appreciate what you had to say about it's about choice. I'm thinking, what are you talking about? I was just talking about there's no choice.
Right.
I didn't. Yeah. Okay, you're welcome.
Yeah.
What can you do?
Yeah. I even, one time I spoke at the APA, the American Psychiatric Association. And I put it under the guise of, I'm going to talk about 12 steps, right? And so I think a lot of people come in to a talk like that from a clinician with the understanding maybe that I'm going to be talking about Alcoholics Anonymous, and then I'm talking about clinicians and family members who are affected by this disease. And if we don't address it in the rooms as the clinician, then we could be missing a lot of details and a lot of information. And to watch doctors squirm and to try to fight the information as I'm even doing the presentation is fun. That part is fun for me, because I get to kind of flex my mental muscles to try to figure out, like, well, how do I relate this message to somebody who's just, if not more educated than me, but needs to understand that just because you're a doctor doesn't mean you're not affected by this disease if you're treating this disease. That was a big thing. I remember working in treatment for years and years, that people would just outright deny that they're working in a treatment center, chose to work at a treatment center, but would not acknowledge that they were affected by this disease. It's like, what about the addict in your group right in front of you? They affect you. You're a human.
Right.
What are we doing about this?
Right. I mean, it's this flow, right? This ebb and flow of power, and people are affected by, someone that I walk past. It's what is the butterfly effect type thing. There's no way that you can be in that close proximity trying to help someone and not be affected by their issues.
Yeah.
Not to the extent that it has to paralyze you or, prevent you from being effective. However, it does affect you.
Yeah. Well, it's all too easy, and I think we touched on this a little bit at the family day. It's all too easy when someone starts to get a little bit better to believe that that's just the end of it. Right? Like,
Right.
Oh, we're great. And clinicians are subject to this too. You would hear it in treatment team all the time of like, oh, they're just doing better. Right?
Mm-hmm.
What's the discharge plan? It's like, they've been here 15 days. We're talking about a discharge plan for a guy who didn't even know what his name was when he got here. It's insanity.
Right.
Right.
That's
why, like with our IOP program and programs like yours that are 90 days, right? If not longer, you've had a lot of guys who stick around a lot longer than that, right?
Yeah.
Because recovery is a long race.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's lifelong. If this is a disease, which it's been characterized as one since 1955, I believe. It might have been earlier. I'd have to fact check that, but you guys can use ChatGPT. You'll find out. If this is a chronic illness, how are we going to Band-Aid it in 15 to 30 days? How are we going to? Wouldn't that be amazing if we could cure cancer in 2 weeks? And the odds of someone surviving cancer versus addiction or alcoholism are so much greater. And yet we want to put this Band-Aid on addiction, and the addict is very amenable to this idea. I want my results. I want to get fixed right now, and love clinicians that are talking about my discharge plan at 2 weeks. Oh, yeah, I'm much better. Yeah. Why do I need to stay another 60, 75 days? But we need to approach this lifelong illness with a lifelong solution, and it does not happen in the space of a week or two. Right. And I think that's part of the failings of the system. You know, it's just the spin dry wheel that just keeps running men and women through the system. Scrape off part of their insurance benefits, send them on their way, knowing that if I've given them a good enough time here, that when they relapse, if they can come back, they'll come back to us because we have steak night on Tuesdays.
Yeah.
And I hate that I always drift back to that arena, but
it's the arena that we play in and that we have to fight for, because, I was talking about this the other day as well, on the concept of you give it 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and the behaviors seem to be changing in small ways, and that's great, except for the 30 plus years where it wasn't. Right. And the greatest indicator of future behavior is past behavior. But there's a real conversation that we have here in the way that we're trying to like even relay our IOP program to other referral partners in the community, detoxes and sober livings and hospitals and things. And the discussion is you'll get a nice email from a big bougie treatment center. And on that email is a graph and a pie chart of how long someone has stayed sober after being at their treatment. But when you double click into those numbers, you see that their percentages are still the same of the 1 in 10 who walk in, get it. All right. And so the conversation we've been relaying is that we're not here to track how long someone stays sober. The first 3 years are a crapshoot anyway.
Right.
What we're here to track and what we're hoping to track is how many times through the relapses did that person remain of quality service to his fellow and to the community that got him back into the solution. That's what if we want to be stewards of the stories of these men and women, that's what we want to track. And that's a novel concept, which is interesting.
Yeah, I mean, sobriety in recovery is not the end game. And that's something that I've had to witness firsthand myself. Like, I'm now 8 years sober again. Did my last relapse, hurt? Sure, it stung the pride. It affected me in several different ways. But ultimately, I never changed course. I did relapse. Yes, I used again, but I got back on the horse and I kept riding. And whereas before it would have been throw my hands in the air, like I just don't care, and then we'll see where this ends up. And usually it's get down on the ground. I said don't move.
Yeah.
But it's quality of life. Right? What is the quality of our lives? Are we advancing and moving forward? If someone has a car wreck, do they stop driving for the rest of their life? No. They get back in the car. Okay. Thank God I got some liability insurance.
Yeah.
But it may take them a while to get over it. Maybe it was a very traumatic car wreck and they've experienced something. But at some point, somebody gets back in the car.
Yeah.
And that's the same thing with the addict or the alcoholic. We can't ignore the truth, and that is to say that the odds are staggeringly stacked up against us to stay sober, and yet that doesn't diminish the quality of life that a man or woman who gets and finds recovery has and provides for his family or takes part in his family that is improving. And it's just like anyone who goes to therapy. Yeah. I mean, the goal is that we continue to grow, that we continue to go beyond what we're capable of in the moment and grow to new levels. And that's what, recovery is about. It's not a destination. It's a journey.
Yeah. That's why, like, even as a clinician, but also in my personal life, like, I used to be resentful, obviously, right? Growing up in the family disease. Sure. And then recovery gave me a place of understanding. I could do my best to detach with love. I don't have to spend the time worried, obsessed, thinking about whether or not someone has found solution. Proof is in the pudding, right? Stone cold proof is in action, right? And that action is 12-step recovery. And I've found over and over and over again, I've tried all the other modalities. I've given credence and time and research and recommendations to things like Smart Recovery and Celebrate Recovery. And I have nothing negative to say about those programs. But what I can say is without the consistent engagement in the 12 steps, I don't have time for all the conversations about who you want to be in your recovery when you're not doing those things.
Right. Oh, it's the fundamental. The data backs it up, even from people, who aren't practitioners of the 12 steps. They see the results, and it's quantifiable.
Yeah.
The results of people who live a spiritual way of life do get better. They do get better, and they contribute more, and they are more open-minded and more active in their community, in their life, in their family work, or in their family life, work life. And it's amazing to me that we're so resistant. I was thinking about it this morning about how, that question that was brought to you, which was, why are you so angry? And people who don't believe in God are so angry about the idea of a God, or that somebody might believe that I could believe that it's afternoon and you could believe that it's evening, and it won't ruin our friendship, right? But you talk about God and suddenly people are at odds and at war, and why are they so angry? I let people be people. I believe that there's a God, and I'm not it. Thank goodness.
And it starts young.
Sure.
You know, these are the moments. I have a kid in my life who was talking about this the other night of like, well, I haven't witnessed God for myself yet. Right. And this is a 12-year-old. It's like, well, of course you haven't. Right. And maybe you have, but you weren't consciously able to grasp it. All of those things are okay. But then when you really listen, it's like, well, I prayed for these things to happen. They didn't happen. And then I find myself sitting there, right? It's like, well, what are the things that this person might have prayed for, right? It's like praying that your parents don't get divorced, but your dad's an alcoholic and won't stop drinking. That's tough. God's not, my partner had a really good response to it is God's not Santa Claus.
Right.
It's not here to give you what you want. Maybe sometimes you will get what you want.
Sure.
But that's not the purpose of God, right? God sees greater. God is bigger. The concept of it that we're shown in our 12-step recovery is bigger than us. And I think that's where most people from a young age get up in arms. It's like, well, I want life to bend the knee to me.
Right.
And a child, well, they're going to have that perspective because, well, we're all here to protect them, God willing, and hopefully so. We're all here to protect them. And so they do have a lot of entitlements and they get away with a lot of things, and that's great. But then if you transition into adulthood without the structure around that, you're not going to be very likable.
Right.
And that's where people get at odds, especially around an argument or a discussion about God. It's like, what do you mean you don't agree with me? God couldn't possibly be real. He's not as real as you and me, and I can touch you, right? It's like, I don't have to believe what you believe, right? But if you're still dealing in entitlement, of course you're mad at me because I'm not going to change my view for you.
Right.
No matter how much you scream and cuss.
Right. Right. And I spend no energy convincing you that you're wrong. Mm-hmm. I mean, if that's the way you want to believe, and if you're content believing that there is no God, which it seems to me that you're not, enjoy, have as much fun as you can stand.
Yeah.
Have as much fun as you can stand. But for me, I was an atheist. When I grew up in Canada, and not that all Canadians are atheists or anything, but I grew up in Canada and I was devoutly atheist. I would argue with anyone with any kind of belief. It didn't matter. And I was a very angry kid. And it's just funny how life is, that I got beat down by alcoholism enough, by my addiction, that you said bend the knee, and I do pray quite a bit. I don't get on my knees. I mean, it's just my preference. I don't do that. I have bad knees. But alcoholism and addiction certainly bent my knee to the idea that maybe, just maybe, there's something bigger than me in this universe. And come to find out, there's plenty bigger than me, including tasers. I don't know if you've ever been tased. But
Yeah, unfortunately.
That's a power bigger than me.
Yeah. I'm always amazed at when you see those videos of people that are unfazed. Like, those suckers send volts through your whole body.
If it wasn't plugged in or charged or something.
Yeah. Well, obviously, to give you guys a snapshot, it's like when Dawn and I sit down for a family day, anytime I've ever done a family day, but witnessing the way Dawn does it at Recovered and Free, Dawn sits down, stands up and has a conversation in front of the group about a step one foundation. Now, we're not going to walk through that entire thing, but obviously it becomes a discussion about the mind, body, spirit in the way that, traditionally people would think about addiction as a choice. Mm-hmm. And then Dawn breaks it down in a step one study about clearly this isn't a choice. And one of the ways that I really like that you did that is all of the characteristics. Mm-hmm. And then you went through each one that the people identified through resentments, right? Mm-hmm. And wiped them off the board as you identified that, like, well, anybody can be resentful. Anybody can be stinky, right? If they didn't shower, anybody can have, a disease, right? It's like you went through the whole thing and wiped them all off. And it brings us back to the pure nature of addiction, right? Being a spiritual malady.
So my view on that is that everyone on the planet has spiritual malady. If you're breathing, you have some form of, and malady meaning sickness, right? So, or weakness or impurity. I don't know how you want to word that, but that we're not all just like connected spiritually from day one. You know, there's some disconnect here between my humanness and divinity, and I think that's true of everyone breathing. But not everyone's an addict. Mm-hmm. Not everyone's an alcoholic. Not everyone's well, they're not addicted to substances anyway. Yeah. But what that malady does is that I want to solve that. Mm-hmm. I don't know what it is. I just know that I, in a room full of 100 people, feel like I'm the oddball out, even though it's my birthday party and everyone showed up to be at my surprise birthday party to celebrate me, and I feel totally alone by the people surrounding me. It's that type of a feeling, intensified maybe, or even diminished, but that feeling that I don't measure up quite enough to my fellow man. That drives me maybe to go have that first drink, or maybe it's my high school or college experience where I have that first drink or that first line of cocaine. Some people have it, they enjoy it, they go home. Mm-hmm. The differentiator between me and my twin brother is that when I put it in me, I cannot stop putting it in me. Mm-hmm. And so the misunderstandings that happen with addiction and alcoholism are these markers, external markers that, they're irresponsible. I know so many irresponsible people on this planet. Yeah. They end up in jail. I know a lot of people who are in jail that are not addict or alcoholic. I know a lot of people who are divorced and not alcoholic or addict, financial issues. And like you said, I had the audience pony up all their ideas. How do I identify an addict or an alcoholic? And the truth is, once we get to the end of the presentation, we don't know anything about it. Mm-hmm. We just have these assumptions. Yeah. And I don't even remember where I got that. I'm sure I stole it from somewhere.
Well, there's a beauty in it too of like flipping the script on the family members. Like, look at the people, right? With all the love in the world, it's like, look at who's throwing these out, and it's always with tones of resentment, right? If you spot it, you got it, right? And so it kind of flips the script on the family of all of these characteristics exist in our society. They exist in your home, and it's not just because of the alcoholic that they exist in your home.
Right.
But that's a painful conversation, and so let's at least clarify and then break it down and bring the focus back to why we're here.
Right.
And I liked that because, before I got up there, I had a lot of different directions in my mind of the way that I wanted to go, and one of them that I didn't go down but was thinking about is like all of the characteristics that were on the board we possess as the family member affected. Like we had talked about before, if we went down a list of character defects and people started picking them out in any given family, you wouldn't be able to identify who the alcoholic was or who the family member was affected, because we have very similar character defects as human beings. Right. The identifier is the disease, which is there's nothing until the treatment is there that's going to stop this disease from progression. In the most simplest terms, without support, this only gets worse. It does not get better. That's a disease, right? We don't need to have any other breakdown or complicated understandings. It's as simple as that. Without support, it only gets worse. It does not get better. That's observable. There's not a single alcoholic or addict I've ever met where that's not the case. But with support, hope is alive. And there's something beautiful about that for the whole family. And it's even more palpable and alive when more people in the system embrace it.
Absolutely. I'm amazed at how many people have, everyone has opinions, but you were talking about the character defects that everyone has across the board. And one of the chief ones, especially among males anyway, is arrogance, right? That I know better. My life experiences have defined me, right? We're what are we? The sum of our experiences, right? We're the sum of our experiences, and most men, not all, of course, nothing 100%, but have this idea that because it didn't affect them the same way, that it's not true for everybody else. And I fell prey to that myself throughout my entire life. I thought that mental illness was just a crutch. Mm-hmm. Says the guy who has bipolar 2 and ADD, you know, I saw it in some of our comments, just people who have never been an addict or an alcoholic, at least to substances, you know, an addict to substances, just saying, you know, you guys need to stop playing victims. Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, we play a victim because you buy it and it works, and I don't have to change when I'm a victim. But the truth is, I'm not a victim of my illness. Right? The illness, I don't get to choose it, but I do get to choose whether I take recovery on or not. Mm-hmm. And I think that's the point of Family Day, is that the family really needs to recognize that they need to embrace their own personal recovery in order for the whole family dynamic to get well.
Yeah, it boils down to something like this. In a daily reminder yesterday I was reading, is that no situation won't be benefited by you taking care of yourself. And in the process of moving forward, we may love somebody so much that we want them to grow with us, but the objective is for you to grow, right? For you to detach and let go of this other person making changes so that you can change. And oh, by the way, the most effective way to affect change in your home is for you to change and grow. That's how we move forward. And so, you know, when I read or see comments or hear comments, even, you know, directly, whether it be in a therapy session or at a family weekend, of like, oh, well, they're just playing the victim. It's like, well, so are you by saying that. Right. Because
if the victim of my victimization, victimhood, right?
Yeah. Because if you could let it go, you would, but you can't without saying something. And oh, by the way, saying something that's actually pretty disrespectful and hurtful towards another human being.
It's that bitterness, that anger, that, you know, that hatefulness, you know, it's just this. And again, there may have been some impact on a man's life or a woman's life, someone's life, that has left them with that bad taste in their mouth. You know, maybe they did have a parent or you know, someone in their life that suffered and hurt them, and I understand that. Yeah. But you can't be a victim of that either.
No.
You embrace it. You know, take the bull by the horns and go get well. Yeah,
and it's you know, you hear a lot of conversations in society about the path of least resistance. Detachment is not that. Detachment oftentimes is a hard choice to make. It's like when someone has feedback for you and you know it's right, but you don't want to accept it. But in order to stay out of a conflict, you have to accept it. Right. It's like, I've come to a place in my life where if I make a mistake, I did this morning getting the kids out the door, kind of everything was on track. And in the last 5 minutes, I started to get like, come on, right? And I think I started to stress people out, and I knew it, right? And as I'm driving to work, I'm like, okay, what can I do? I need to pray. I need to let this go. I'll circle back with my partner. It got a little bit frenetic and frantic towards the end there, just trying to get them out the door. And then when she gives me the feedback, before I have a chance to circle back that, hey, I might have stressed her out a little bit, all my defenses want to come up.
Oh, man.
But then I take a deep breath and I realize it's like, she's just giving feedback, right? I could take it or leave it. I also don't have to get up in arms. So let me take what fits and leave the rest. I'm not at fault, but I am at fault, right? So it's like that balance of like, there are multiple players, right? When you've got small children that are demanding control of an adult, that's tough. Right. But I don't have to force or change them. But what I can do is take the feedback, not get defensive, not be a victim, not come back and retort with like all the things that they did wrong. That only gets you in further trouble. Right. And that's what the family does, I think, to no fault of their own. They're hurt, right? They do that in things like family days or therapy sessions of like, well, they chose this. They're not a victim, right? It's like, well, no matter how many times you say that, it isn't changing the outcome. So maybe we try to say some things a little differently, or if you can't say them kindly, you just shut the fuck up.
Right.
You know?
Right. silence is not one of my great strengths, unless of course you're talking about my own personal feelings, you know. And then suddenly I get pretty quiet. But I certainly appreciate what you said. Like, one of the chapters in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous is the family afterwards, and it talks about how the more one person in the family exerts his will to have his way, the more the rest of the family pushes back.
Yeah.
And that was coming to my mind as you're talking about the events of getting the kids already out the door. You know, it's how much do I really want to fight?
Right.
You know, how important is it really? And I wish I could remember that more often
Same.
for myself.
Same.
I'll remember it for you, Al.
And that, you know, you touch on a good point too, which before we kind of wrap up here today, maybe we kind of circle and close on this one and kind of talk a little bit about where people could find to wander into one of our family days. But there's a status quo that exists in the family disease of addiction. When someone does start to get better, the same way the person who exerts their will forces others to push back, when someone starts to get better, you see the pull back into the dynamic. There is a status quo of the malady, the sickness, the distress, that if you shake it up, now it's not predictable anymore.
Right.
Right. So I may really want you to get sober, but once you do, whoa, wait a second, because if you're better, that means I'm sick.
Right.
Because I can't stop. And this is what happens to the family member.
Right.
It's what you were talking about with a mutual case that we're working through, is like, you've got to let him go run it out. You've got to let him find the consequences, because if you do it for him, your fear will come true. He may die. If you try to do it for him, you'll love him to death.
Yeah, and it's a strange dynamic of push and pull, because whether we like it or not, the family system that is surrounded by alcoholism or addiction, both family members are on a certain trajectory together, even though it's sick. And if the alcoholic gets well or the addict gets well, they change the course of the path. And then the family member keeps getting farther and farther apart from the recovered addict or alcoholic. And then what ends up happening is in order for the system to work, one has to jump the tracks. Either the family member is going to jump onto the let's get well together, or create enough distress in the home that causes the addict or alcoholic to relapse. And then they can be self-righteous and say, see, I told you were never going to make it.
Yeah.
But that is also true in the reverse. If the family member gets well, the addict's going to go on a different trajectory. They're going to get farther and farther apart, and either one is going to jump the tracks. The family member is going to jump back into the sickness and go back into the fray, or the alcoholic or the addict is going to jump onto the track of wellness. And it's one of the things, it's the hardest thing for a family member to do, is to stop enabling.
Yeah, it's tough.
Because as twisted and as pain-filled as my life is in a sick relationship, what is it? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Yeah, familiarity.
That.
I know how this one goes.
Right.
I don't know how a healthy relationship goes. That's where recovery comes in.
Yeah. And if and as a family member, if you're watching today, the hardest, best thing you'll ever do is to say, I love you, but I can't continue to watch you kill yourself anymore. You have two choices. One is get well, and I'll be with you every step of the way. The other is to go your own way, but I'm not going to watch you kill yourself anymore. I still love you. I will never stop loving you, but the choice is yours. And therein lies the fact that an addict or an alcoholic is not a victim.
Yeah.
They can make a choice, not about the addiction, but whether they're going to choose to get well or not, choose to embrace a new way of life. Therein lies the rub.
Yeah. If you want to break these cycles, or you just wanted to hear us talk and give the foundational discussions, you're welcome to pop in down in Hubbard, Texas. The second Sunday of every month. We'll be having this discussion in some shape or fashion. If you're a family affected, reach out. We have the resources. We have the structure. It's ready today. reach out to us, Breaking the Cycle Therapy or Recovered and Free. All the information you can find at breakingthepsychotherapy.com under our treatment tab or under our residential and IOP. You can find it at recoveredandfree.com as well. All of this information is available to you. It's ready today. If you're anywhere in the world and you need this support, we'll figure out how to get you here for this stuff. Is there anything else you'd add to that, Don?
No, I just want to encourage everyone. You know, there's the best times of your life are in front of you, not behind you. And how do we change our course? That's the real question. It's not the why. Why is my life like this? Why is he an addict? As much as it is how do we move on from here?
Amen.
And so, just want to encourage you all to start asking how. And why is not all that important.
Yeah. All righty, guys. We'll see you next week. We love you. Take care.
Peace.